Welcome to This Explainer. I invite you to slow down for a moment. Just take a deep breath and join me on a journey into the hidden corridors of our minds. Today, we're going to explore the profound truths behind financial success. Truths that, surprisingly, have very little to do with spreadsheets and absolutely everything to do with who we are as humans.
So, what is the true price of wealth? It's a question that haunts a lot of us, yet always seems to elude a simple answer. As we embark on this cinematic, meditative exploration of Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money, we've got to be prepared to look deeply at our own behavioral truths. You see, the answers we're looking for aren't found in the mechanics of the market. They're tucked away in the quiet and often irrational corners of our own psychology.
Section 1. The Illusion of Math.
For generations, we've been taught that finance is this rigid mathematical discipline, a science made entirely of numbers and formulas. But it turns out this is a captivating illusion. Finance is actually a deeply human psychological phenomenon, driven by our fears, our hopes, and our unique personal histories. Housel proposes a pretty radical thought here. Doing well with money has a little to do with how smart you are, and a lot to do with how you behave. Mastering our own biases, really understanding the heavy hand of our emotions, is far more critical than any technical, academic knowledge we might pick up along the way. We aren't just unfeeling calculators, we're emotional beings, constantly navigating a sea of uncertainty.
Now, consider this number, 0.000000001%. This microscopic fraction represents our own personal experiences with money when measured against the vast, complex expanse of global financial history. It's a nearly invisible sliver, literally a single drop in an endless ocean of events.
Yet, and here's the crazy part, despite this tiny fraction of actual experience, it shapes a massive 80% of how we believe the entire world works. We are profoundly anchored to the economic events of our early adulthood. Our personal history colors every single financial decision we make, blinding us to the larger picture. We tend to believe our tiny little window is the entire universe.
Section 2. The Ego and the Unseen.
It's time to look past the superficial illusions of modern consumerism, to peel back the layers of what we think success looks like. Our ego so often drives us to display our resources, but true security lies in what remains hidden. There's a stark dichotomy between being rich and being wealthy. Being rich is highly visible. It's a loud declaration of current income, the expensive car, the massive house. But being wealthy? That is hidden from view. It's income that is strategically not spent. The paradox is profound. Wanting wealth just to signal status to others is often the exact thing that prevents the true accumulation of that very wealth.
Wealth is what you don't see. Let that sink in for a moment. True wealth is the sports car you didn't purchase. It's the first-class upgrade you politely declined, the silent, uncelebrated restraint of a high savings rate. It's the unspent assets that actually provide freedom, the invisible safety net that catches us when the world inevitably falls apart.
This leads us to a pretty tragic question. Why do smart people go broke? Well, consider the dark reality of Bernie Madoff. Here was a man who legitimately made millions in profit, yet he lost his soul and his freedom. He fell from grace simply because he had absolutely no concept of the word enough. When the goalpost never stops moving, ruin is the only inevitable destination.
Section 3. Luck, Risk, and Time.
We're going to focus now on the uncontrollable forces that shape our lives, the twin siblings of destiny that we so often just ignore. Understanding these forces is absolutely necessary for financial survival. You see, accumulating money and actually keeping it require two entirely different psychological skill sets. Getting wealthy requires the optimism of a visionary, a willingness to step into the unknown and take big risks. But staying wealthy? Well, that requires the quiet paranoia of a survivor. It takes frugality, humility, and an enduring fear that what you have could be taken away. It's a delicate, incredibly difficult balance to maintain.
In the world of finance, extreme outcomes drive everything. These are known as tail events. They're rare, outlying events at the farthest ends of a distribution, and they account for the vast majority of success and failure in history. An investor can literally be wrong half the time and still achieve a fortune if they just survive long enough to experience one of these powerful tail events.
Luck and risk are inseparable siblings, controlling so much of our outcomes. Take Bill Gates, for example. His brilliance is absolutely undeniable.
But he also had the profound luck of attending a very rare high school that actually had a computer back in 1968. We've got to be careful, constantly warning ourselves against the easy assumption that success is entirely self-made. There are always unseen currents of chance, quietly guiding the ship.
Thinking of market volatility as a fee rather than a fine. Financial turbulence is not a punishment for a mistake. It's not a penalty for doing something wrong. It is simply the necessary price of admission, the cost we all must endure for long-term compounding to actually work its magic. So, embrace the fee and stay the course.
Section 4. The academic blind spots.
As we journey deeper, we need to gently pivot to the impartial critiques of this psychological worldview. We must acknowledge them calmly, as wise and necessary observations of the book's limitations, because every perspective has its shadows. The first critique centers right on the foundation of economics. Scholar Byron Carson notes that Housel largely ignores classical economic principles. For instance, he completely bypasses Karl Menger's strict definition of money as a means of exchange based on subjective values. Understanding money fundamentally, and not just psychologically, is crucial to a complete picture. We have to balance the mind with the mechanics.
Furthermore, there's the cultural context to consider. A critique from the SHS Web of Conferences points out a really significant blind spot. The book is viewed through a highly Western individualistic lens. Because of that, it struggles to account for structural economic inequality and the collective realities in developing contexts like Indonesia. True wisdom must be adaptable. It must recognize the systemic walls that psychology alone simply cannot tear down.
Section 5. The ultimate dividend.
This brings us to the final chapter of our explainer, where we return to the deeply personal philosophical core of this meditative journey. We look past the critiques and find the lasting truth at the center of it all. I want to ask you to reflect for a moment. What is the point of wealth? Look beyond the arbitrary spreadsheets, the endless numbers, and the heavy societal pressures. Define for yourself, what does true freedom and fulfillment actually look like in your life? It is a deeply personal question with absolutely no single right answer. And so, we arrive at this resonating truth. The highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up and say, I can do whatever I want today. The absolute greatest intrinsic value of money isn't the things it can buy you, but its quiet ability to give you control over your own time.
Time and freedom. These are the true dividends of a life well managed. The quiet space to breathe, to choose, to simply be. So, as you step back into the noise of the world today, how will you choose to spend your time?